Join Gators Breakdown Plus for your chance to win this Gators alternate blue helmet. Joined by this Friday, September 3rd. The drawing will be next week. New and current members eligible. The link for Gators Breakdown Plus is in the description. Football season is also tailgating season, and at Four Rivers Smokehouse for a limited time, take $5 off on orders of $25 or more when ordering in-store or by phone using promo code Gators Breakdown. And sign up at MyBookie. Use our promo code Gators to get your first ever deposit match dollar for dollar. Bet anything, anywhere, anytime with MyBookie.
Gators Breakdown, because there's never a dull moment in Gator Nation.
The Gators Breakdown podcast is ready to go. I'm your host, David Waters, and you can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. It's game week. It's midweek game week. You know what that means. It's time for our first opponent preview of the season, as the FAU Owls will roll into Gainesville Saturday night to take on the Gators. Helping me break it all down, Zachary Weinburger from Lemon City Live, FAU Beat Reporter there. Zach, man, thanks for joining. I hope you're ready for football season as much as we are.
I definitely am as well. I'm excited for the first game of the season. I'm not sure if FAU fans are excited because they're going against UF, but it's still an exciting season to cover for sure.
Yeah. You know, these teams have played a few times in the last decade or so. So we'll get to it too. In-state game there, Florida, FAU, USF. So two opponents there from in-state that the Gators will be taking against, and also FSU later in the season. So Florida's playing a lot of in-state schools, starting with FAU in the first game of the season this year. Zach, let's get straight to it, man. Last season, crazy, chaotic season for everybody out there. FAU gets off to a good 5-1 start. 4 games were canceled due to COVID, and then ended the season on a 3-game losing streak. How would you assess year one in 2020 under Willie Taggart?
It was, like you said, it was hectic. It was crazy. I mean, it was filled with cancellations, postponements, quarterback changes. Even though we did go after that pretty hot start, I would say that this team really wasn't sustainable going into the end of the season, competing for a conference championship. It was just crazy, especially having year one under Willie Taggart. A lot of expectations, especially after Lane Kiffin leaves FAU to go to Ole Miss. It was a lot of expectations, a lot of downers to end the season. But I think in year two, the expectations and the attitudes are different this time around. Just kind of talking to players and coaches, it's different this time around. They have a huge chip on their shoulder. They found their quarterback. You know, and then going into game one against Gainesville, last time they went into Gainesville, they actually won it, or they not won it, but they were really close. They want to compete. You know, they think they can win this game against UF, and that's obviously they're not going to say they're going to lose. But they're feeling much more confident and comfortable this time around. Taggart runs coaches, new offensive coordinators. You bring in Mike Stoops, a pretty high caliber defense coordinator there. This team in year two has a lot of expectations among fans, and especially even me. I think they can make a lot of noise this year in the conference. Now, will it start this Saturday against preseason number 13 University of Florida? I expect a pretty hard-fought game, maybe the first half, but we'll talk about it. But year two, there's a lot more expectations than year one for sure.
Sounds good. So Gator fans, of course, know Willie Taggart well from his stint at FSU, and he had that lethal simplicity tagline about his offense back at that time. Is that something that's still around? You know, what are we seeing in this offense heading into year two for Taggart?
Yeah, so I mean, FAU fans were kind of, you know, spoiled with Lane Kiffin. I mean, those 3 years that he was there, and he brought a lot of offensive strategies with his quarterback and his running backs and his receivers. This time around, it seems that, you know, they're being very quiet about their game plan. You know, obviously scrimmages are not open to the public like a lot of teams are. Media availability with practice is only like 15 minutes. It seems like that there's something new that they want to throw out here, possibly some special weapons against UF and against conference opponents. So I think it's a little different this year. I know that even him has a chip on his shoulder, obviously, with the backlash and all the reactions from his time at FSU, like you mentioned. To me, what I've seen, it's a little different. The players, the offensive coordinators, they have a lot of faith in this offense that it could be something new, something different that would hopefully capture FAU another conference championship since my time there. So to me, it's a little different, and we'll see what they throw at UF when it comes to the options and the roll arounds and stuff like that.
All right, so of course, to start the quarterback, N'Kosi Perry, former Miami Hurricane, he's named the starter for the Florida game. Take us through the quarterback competition that led up to him being named the starter and why Perry gets the nod.
Yeah, so it was pretty much a four-quarterback race, according to Taggart and according to coaches for this time around. It was N'Kosi Perry, it was incumbent starter Nick Tronti, it was Michael Johnson Jr., and then it was Willie Taggart Jr. To me, I never really felt that Willie Taggart Jr. had a shot this time around. Again, only a freshman. I feel like what this quarterback room really has, that it has the presence and also has the possible future in Michael Johnson Jr. and Willie Taggart Jr. So really, it was always between N'Kosi Perry and Nick Tronti. I really didn't see a lot from Nick Tronti last season to make me feel comfortable going into the Florida game, going into the season. Knows the offense very well, good on it with his legs. Just the throwing ability wasn't there. N'Kosi Perry, he missed spring ball, and then that was pretty huge. It was a later acquisition. But to me, I was kind of talking with different FAU people on Twitter about it, and there was some disagreement. But to me, it was like, you don't get N'Kosi Perry. The expectation is to not start him game one or start most games of the season. To me, you bring him in there. He has that big game experience from University of Miami. He's played under the lights before and in big crowds. Again, we'll see 70,000 people, crowd the swamp, on Saturday. But he's been there before. So to me, and again, you just see from practice when he's working with the starting offensive linemen, he's working with the starting receivers and the running backs, it was pretty obvious to me that N'Kosi Perry was going to be QB1. And to me, I was pretty much banking on him making great strides, even missing spring ball to get the nod. And it did, and we were talking at the Taggart earlier. I actually just posted a story earlier this morning about what Taggart and the OC said about him. He made great strides. The leadership, the communication. Even before he entered the team, he was communicating with the receivers, communicating with his team. He seems like that leader that can lead FAU into Gainesville and possibly fight. We'll see if it happens. But it's interesting. But N'Kosi Perry gets a starting nod. Not that surprising to me.
All right, then you're going through preseason magazines and reading about the FAU getting ready for this matchup here. A lot of people pointed out a player to watch, Johnny Ford, transferred from USF there, accounted for 1,900 all-purpose yards in 3 seasons there at USF in 24 games. 7 games last season, rushed for 285 yards, caught 15 passes for 125 more. Said he brings some speed to the offense. How do you see, FAU was already kind of deep at running back anyway. They bring in Ford. How do you see him utilizing this offense?
I think they want to use him in any way they can. Obviously, like you said, just kind of going in here, being a transfer here. Obviously, they like Larry McCammon. They like Malcolm Davidson. But like you said, the FAU is kind of like RBU. You know what I'm saying? You got Devin Singletary, you got Kareth White, who are both with, the Buffalo Bills at the moment. DJ Emmons, who just got in the NFL. I think he just got cut, actually, with yesterday's cuts. But a lot of running backs kind of come through FAU, and they have immense success. And I don't see why the same thing couldn't happen for Johnny Ford. In fact, I think he could have probably one of the better FAU running back seasons, except for maybe Devin Singletary, who was absolutely crazy over here. But the depth at running back is going to be one of our key points here. And it's a room that Willie Taggart, the offensive coordinator, the different coaches are praised every single chance they get. And a guy like Johnny Ford, who has pretty much the talent to not only be utilized in the backfield, but also through the trenches, I think he can have a pretty awesome season. We'll see, though, because, again, I feel like they're going to give a lot of people opportunities. It's going to be more of a committee, more of a workhorse. I'd be very surprised if we see a significant amount of carries for one singular person, especially since just recently they made Larry McCammon one of the captains for the season. But I think everybody's going to get their chance. Everybody's going to get their pop, and I think it's going to be a really awesome room for FAU this season. I think they're going to run all over the conference. And to me, I could see them having a pretty nice day against UF, even though UF always has a great defense. But I think that's one thing they might be underestimating. We'll see. It's pretty awesome, though. Johnny Ford is going to be a huge part of this FAU offense.
Yeah, pretty experienced offensive line to go along with that running game as well for FAU. Pretty experienced across the board, on both sides of the ball, actually. So, probably can be contributed a little bit or attributed a little bit to bad quarterback play last season, but returns a heavy group of wide receivers as well that lack probably some big playability. Any certain players there that we should be on the lookout for maybe breakthrough performance and with maybe getting better quarterback play from N'Kosi Perry, elevating their game at wide receiver?
Yeah, I feel like, again, N'Kosi Perry, to me, from what I've seen in practice and just from what I've seen in general, just again my personal observations, I think that he can get the ball way more than Nick Tronti did last year, and I think that it's gonna lead to better wide receiver play. TJ Chase, a guy that showed some flashes last season. Brandon Robinson, same thing. These two guys who we spoke to, I think about a couple weeks ago, pretty much saying like again, this year's different. You're going to see a different wide receiver group this season. They have a lot of tricks up their sleeves. I'm excited to see what they have there. One guy that to me is like, I've said this every single season, of who can break out. It's John Mitchell. Obviously, later in his years at FAU, the reason why is because he has the big size. He has the catching ability. The problem is that he really can't stay on the field due to injuries. He always, he's very injury prone. If he stays healthy, I think that he can have a very, very successful season. But other guys, you got guys like Willie Wright. You got who's pretty much unreliable for FAU these past couple of years. But really, Brandon Robinson, TJ Chase, that's definitely the guys that I'm looking at. Jadante Wester. It's a really deep group, and I think this season was very different than last season because you have way more experience in a lot of the other groups, whether it be the offensive line, the running backs we were just talking about, the linebacker group, but really the wide receivers can pop off. And again, obviously it goes hand in hand. Can N'Kosi Perry give him the ball? Can he put it on the money for them to succeed? I think they can. And even some of these guys can be used out of the backfield with those trick plays, the end arounds, the bubble screens. I think it's going to be a very successful and creative offense. We'll see. That's just kind of my preseason preview and prediction there. But, the wide receiver group is one to watch for sure this season. Again, kind of a group where, you're not going to get a single guy that's going to, just blow off the roof. Every guy is going to contribute and make an impact.
Let's move to the other side of the ball. Big change there. Defensive coordinator Mike Stoops takes over from Jim Leavitt. An unit that returns 10 starters from a 24th ranked defense in the country last year. What would you say the strength of the defense is?
To me, from what I've seen, it has to be either the linebacker crew or the secondary. I don't want to say the D-line is bad by any means or by any stretch, as they do actually retain some guys. The thing is, I think they can make an impact on any side, and especially with the linebacker crew, a guy that's coming back, who missed games last season, is Achilles Leroy, who to me, a guy that I've got to know very well throughout my time at FAU, and to see it pop off in the past couple of years has been great. He's back on the team this year, coming off of a season where he had over 100 tackles, 6 or 7 sacks. And to me, the guy can make an impact on any play. So to me, it's definitely the linebacker crew. You got to look at Amon Ross, who pretty much is kind of playing hybrid this time around, safety and linebacker. That's a guy to look out for sure. Obviously, the guy that people are really excited about going to the season on the defense is Chase Lassiter, outside linebacker. He could also pretty much be on the edge and get a lot of sacks. That's a guy that people are looking out for. But I feel like that this defense, one of the things I'm interested in looking for against the University of Florida is how the defense plays against a top tier offensive line, a top tier offense, and see how they react. Because again, pretty much when I do my predictions, when I do stuff like that, I always look at how are they going to match up against the conference. And to me, I feel like FAU does that very well. They're to me, probably the top 3 or maybe even one of the better teams in the conference for sure. But against UF, how can they react? And to me, I feel like again we're gonna see a successful defense. They're gonna face a lot of adversity in game 1, which I feel like it might be a blessing in disguise. Whether we lose by 30 or we lose by 7, whatever the case may be, I feel like it'll prove very beneficial to this team to see who they are, what they need to do, and then when they go up against these lesser teams in the conference, it can make for a great time. So we'll see. But guys, I'm looking out for Achilles Leroy, the linebacker crew with Amon Ross, and definitely Chase Lassiter, who could probably provide so much impact to the quarterback. So we'll see if that happens Saturday.
Yeah, you mentioned Achilles Roy there, and top tackler in 2019, didn't play last year. And to the numbers that you mentioned, he had 15 and a half tackles for loss as well back in that 2019 season. So, definitely a player to sit there and kind of put a microscope on for the Gator side of things. What do you think is there? You bring so many guys back on the defensive side of the ball too. But as I mentioned, you're switching defensive coordinators. Is there, just because you have so much experience, is it kind of maybe sticking to the same type of game plan, or does Mike Stoops come in here and change a whole lot schematically on the defense? So did you get to notice anything about that as far as the limited time that you got to watch the team in preseason camp?
I feel like for me, from what I've seen from the defense, I feel like that this defense has changed a whole ton the past couple years. We had Glenn Spencer with Lane Kiffin, and then he's gone. He goes to USF, and then we have another guy, and then again we have a different guy, Mike Stoops. I feel like what Stoops wants to do here is make the defense feel comfortable, because while it is experienced players, if you bring a whole new playbook to but then you're just kind of giving them a lot in their mind. But to me, I feel like he wants to make it easier on his team. So to me, I feel like that there will be definitely some changes here, but I feel like what he wants to do is make it the best for his players and what they can accomplish. Kind of fit their strongest suit. So to me, I feel like that what he's going to do this season is pretty much get adjusted to this team. Because every time we talk, but it's actually pretty impressive, because every time we talk to Coach Stoops, it's like he's been here for like 5 years. He sees these guys as pure veterans. He knows the guys very well. So to me, to answer the question, I feel like that things will change, but I don't think drastically. Especially from what I've seen in the media availability at preseason camp and spring training and training camp, and stuff like that. I think Coach Stoops will kind of keep some of the same things that made FAU very impressive the past couple of years. But probably add some flair to kind of keep the offense guessing. So I think it'll be a mixture of both.
Sounds good there for our preview of the FAU Owls. Zachary, man, let everybody know, kind of your well thought out parts of this game. How you see it maybe playing out. You don't have to give a score or anything, but just what do you expect from FAU heading into this game? You've kind of briefed us about just a little bit here, but what you expect, just kind of overall for Willie Taggart rolling in here Saturday night.
These guys, like I said before, these guys have a huge, huge chip on their shoulder. N'Kosi Perry does. Willie Taggart does. Everybody in the offense and everybody in the defense does. They obviously want to be better than last season because it was so hectic. It was so confusing. Cancellations, postponements, like I said before. Going into Gainesville, it's obviously a tough test week 1. Going up against pretty much a top 15 team in the country in the preseason. I think what they want to do is be competitive, and obviously they're not going to say they're going to lose the game. They think they can win the game, and I think that with a guy like N'Kosi Perry under center that's been in that big game time experience, it will prove to be very beneficial towards them. If you want to see a score preview, that'll be my preview for Lemon City Live. Check that out. Shameless plug. But seriously though, when it comes to this, really, it's like, if FAU loses by like 7 or 14 points, I think that's a win. I know that's a 0-1 in the win-loss column, but to me, that's a win. If you're competitive throughout all 4 quarters, you got to win in my book. And to me, that would prove to be like, I'm expecting a whole lot from this team for the rest of the season against the rest of the conference. If you're losing by little to University of Florida, I'm not even talking about if they win. That to me, I don't know about that, but like, I feel like people are expecting a blowout. And I kind of go to the thing where when FAU faces these big teams, I know the last one was pretty much like Ohio State and Oklahoma. They were pretty competitive in maybe the first quarter. Things got a little messy in the second and the third, and maybe they came back in the fourth. But to me, against the University of Florida, I think we'll see some competitiveness in the first couple quarters, especially since obviously UFA having a different quarterback this season compared to last season, and what UF can offer. I think UF fans will be surprised with what they see from FAU. I still think that UF fans should probably expect a pretty a high scoring game for UF on their standards. For FAU, there's still a lot of adjustment to be made, especially with N'Kosi Perry being in the system and stuff like that. People are probably still adjusting. But to me, I'm excited to see this game just because to see where FAU differs from year one of Willie Taggart to year two. But at the end of it, I think UF gets the win here. Congratulations, Gator fans. But yeah, no, it should be a fun time, and hopefully it does stay competitive because that'll be fun.
Yeah, the biggest change for both teams right now or the biggest difference for both teams right now, FAU pretty experienced on both sides of the ball and bringing a whole lot of players back. Florida replacing a whole lot of players on both sides of the ball. So that's probably the biggest difference if you just want to kind of blanket for both teams there. One difference that you can expect from each team. One pretty experienced, even though they are, even with the experience at quarterback for FAU, they're going with a new quarterback, of course, with the transfer there. But yeah, experience on one side, experience not so much on the other side. As you said, talent probably plays out, but that is the biggest difference between teams right now is the experience FAU brings compared to Florida when they play Saturday night in the Swamp. Zachary, man, one more time, plug Lemon City Live, what you guys got going on there, what you have been doing and covering FAU this fall.
Yeah, when they approached me to kind of cover FAU football, it was they're very free over there. It's really great to work with them. Lemon City Live. Good to be back on the FAU beat. Obviously, I previously with my school newspaper at FAU, I was covering for them, and then I kind of came back for Lemon City Live to cover it. So it's been great to be back on the FAU beat, man, and obviously a nice little game one. I'm still deciding if I want to go to Gainesville to actually attend that game. We'll see. But Lemon City Live, check out my stuff. One just released earlier this morning, actually, about kind of the reactions from Willie Taggart and offensive coordinator Michael Johnson about N'Kosi Perry. N'Kosi Perry himself, he has a new number 7. He likes Michael Vick. He has a message for the FAU fans. Check it out on my page. It's at Zach Weinburger on Twitter. Zach is ZachWeinberger. Lemon City Live, check them out too, man. You can find them on Twitter just with that spelling. So pretty cool what they have going on over there. They're kind of a little bit of annoyed because the guys over there are FIU fans. I'm an FAU guy, so that, there's always some tension. No, but seriously, it's a lot of fun with those guys over there. So check us out.
Zach, man, can't thank you enough for giving our first opponent preview of the season here on Gators Breakdown for FAU. Man, good luck with everything. Good luck this season, and have a blast out there covering FAU.
You too, man. You too.
See you later. All right, football season's also tailgating season, and there's nothing better for a tailgate than Four Rivers Smokehouse, named the #1 barbecue in the South by Southern Living Magazine. Four Rivers Smokehouse is a family-owned barbecue restaurant specializing in 18-hour smoked Angus brisket. Man, I love me some brisket, but I got to have some ribs too. Big ribs guy. Also, get their home-style sides and fresh baked desserts at any of Four Rivers Smokehouse's 13 Florida locations. Four Rivers party packages come tailgate ready, so you can spend more time watching those games all day and not the grill. Enjoy the gridiron pack for 4 for $54.99 or the party for 12 package for $109. Each package includes Four Rivers award-winning barbecue meats, home-style sides, buns, and signature barbecue sauce. Now through September 30th, take $5 off on orders of $25 or more when ordering in-store or by phone when you mention Gators Breakdown. That's now through September 30th. Take $5 off on orders of $25 or more when ordering in-store or by phone when you mention Gators Breakdown. So Gators, whether you live in Gainesville or just in town for the game, swing by Four Rivers Gainesville, located in Butler Plaza. If you're tailgating at home in the Orlando, Jacksonville, Tampa, or Tallahassee areas, then you can also enjoy the best barbecue anywhere in Florida at Four Rivers Smokehouse. Winning season returns at mybookie.ag, and it's time to get in on the action. First-time players can get started by doubling your first deposit, giving you the firepower to add excitement to the games you love. College football odds boost, NFL lock of the season, and over $500,000 in contest prizes live on site to make this winning season your best ever with MyBookie. With a historic 18-week NFL schedule offering more action than ever before, you need a sportsbook casino that's reliable, and you won't find a better place than MyBookie. I know you're going to bet this season, so the smart thing to do is sign up with MyBookie. Use our promo code Gators to get your first ever deposit matched dollar for dollar. That's extra money credited to your account instantly just for using promo code Gators and making your first deposit. Bet anything, anywhere, anytime with MyBookie. All right, here we go. You just kind of heard it there. This FAU team, experience, but polar opposites as far as last year goes, as far as both sides of the ball go. On offense, they were 115th in the country at 18.9 points per game, 48th in rushing at 180 yards per game, 117th in passing for only 144 yards a game, and 112th in total yards per game with 325 yards a game. You heard me say there, almost every starter returns. But look, at quarterback, they have starters returning, but they'll be going with transferring to Kosi Perry. He's getting a start after transferring in. Running back Johnny Ford, as I've mentioned, USF transfer. He's a back that will garner many carries, maybe the most. We'll see how that goes. But also an effective pass catcher out of the backfield. So watch Perry, watch for Ford, the transfers that are coming in for FAU to see if they can spark that offense early on against Florida. Mostly the same offense as last season with another year under their belt. So we'll see if experience helps in their first game as well. Deep at running back, but relying on transfers to help turn it around. Different story on defense. 10th nationally in scoring defense were the Owls last year and giving up only 17.4 points per game. They were 51st in rushing defense, giving up 154.6 yards a game. So if you had to pick a weak spot last year for a good defense, it was the rush defense. We'll see now with this focus on a run game for the Gators, they can put some yards up as far as if they're looking for a weak spot in this FAU defense for last year, it was in the rush defense. Pretty good pass defense coming in off a season where they ranked 16th in the country at 187.7 yards per game. And to put it all together, the Owls were good for 342.2 yards per game, ranking 24th in the country. So maybe a good pass defense test for Emory Jones, Anthony Richardson out there to get the passing game going for the Gators. Of course, all that was in the Conference USA schedule, so weigh it there. But against very similar talent, they were able to put some pretty good numbers up on defense and struggle on offense there last year for the Owls. So here we go. Stat here for you from Athlon's preseason magazine about these Owls. Defense allowed 17 touchdowns and 12 field goals across 107 opponent possessions last season. It's an average of 1.45 points per drive. That led Conference USA in that statistic of points per drive. So there you go. It'll be interesting to see how much changes are going on the defensive side of the ball with Jim Leavitt leaving a pretty good defense, having so many players return, and now Mike Stoops and his base 3-4 defense comes in. One player to watch on that side of the ball, cornerback Romaine Smoke Mungan, potential NFL player with boom and bust potential. According to Athlon, coaches think he's an NFL caliber type player, but would need to improve on defending the deep ball as he was burned too often in that aspect. So if you're looking for big plays either way from a defender for FAU, look out for Mungan and if he is involved in the big play, either for FAU or a detriment to FAU in some big passing plays. That's one player to look out for there in the secondary for the Owls. So there we go. FAU preview. Pretty good FAU preview there from Zachary. I gave you my thoughts on that team as well. But so now what do I want to see from Florida? Quickly, here's a quick Cliff Notes version of every position rundown right here of what I want to see first game of the season. This will kind of change how I do this throughout the season. I'll probably just key in on some positions, but we're kicking the season off. We got a lot of questions for this team. And just because you have a lot of questions does not mean you can't be successful. But here are some questions I want to see answered in the first game. How do I want to see the Gators handle certain situations for all these positions going against FAU? Quarterback, comfortability. I want to see checks at the line of scrimmage. I want to see if FAU does something different on defense, if they shift players before the snap. How comfortable are these quarterbacks? How comfortable is Emory Jones reading the defense, making the checks, and then if something switches right before the snap, how does he handle that play? And just looking comfortable, not going out there and looking like the moment's not too big. This is his first start. This is his team now. Can he go out there, play comfortable? If he's out there comfortable for the Gators will, have a nice night. Same thing for Anthony Richardson, of course. He'll be coming in, sprinkled in, maybe even get some more snaps in the second half of the game if the Gators put it away. Does he look comfortable? Does he look like he belongs on the field out there? We saw versus Oklahoma just a little bit last year in the bowl game, him his inextended playing time, more so than he had any other point of the year. He'll get some extended time probably this week as well. So I want to see these guys go out there and just look comfortable, look like they belong, and not surprised by the moment there. Running back, you guys, I'm predictable, of course, on this one. You can go ahead and pick it out. I'll give you 5 seconds. You know it. It's explosive runs. That's what I want to see, especially from an overmatched opponent. This is a moment where the running back should be able to break some big runs. Hopefully, he couldn't do it at all hardly last year. Had struggles doing it in 2019 a couple seasons ago as well. Go get some explosive runs. Go hit some chunk yardage plays. I'm talking about the runs that are 20 yards or more. If you go out there and average 10, 12 yards a carry, and it's mostly 10, 12 yards for the carries, that's good. That's good too. But I want to see, 30, 40, 50-yard runs, a couple of those runs. I'm not asking every time they touch the ball to go out there and bust a home run type of ball, but we want to see the potential of that in this Gator offense, and that's going to start Saturday night. Plus, how deep they go. How many backs get a carry? How many carries do those backs get? You already know what you have in Damian Pierce. You already know what you have in Malik Davis. You already know what you have in Naquan Wright. Do the young players get more carries because of that, and see what they bring to the table in Lorenzo Lingard and DeMarcus Bowman? Do they get more carries because Florida should be putting the game away pretty early, and you already know what the other running backs bring to the table? Let's see what these guys bring to the table in game-like situations. That can extend my running back explosive thought. That can extend to the offensive line, of course. Open holes for those explosive runs. It starts up front. Of course, I think we could point just a few times that the running backs probably missed a hole or couldn't make a move at the second level to bust a big run, but it starts up front most of the time, and it starts with those big open holes from an offensive line. This shift in offense, the focus going more toward the run game, should help this in this regard. We should see it right away. I want to see it right away, game one. And also, in passing situations, how does the right side of the offensive line hold up? And I think we could probably also say, do we get as far as the left side goes too, Richard Garage there at left tackle, we didn't have to worry about Stone Forsyth all so much last year. I mean, it was pretty much a foregone conclusion. That left side is going to be really good. So I think we can look at the whole offensive line in passing situations. Can we still depend on the left side to not have to worry about it? And the right side, can we see some growth there from Gene DeLance, Stuart Reese on the right side in passing situations? Florida's in 3rd and 8, and everybody in the stadium knows the passing play is coming. Gene DeLance knows the passing play is coming. Can he not get beat by a defender? I don't care who was on the other side. I don't care that it's FAU. We need to go out there and see some consistency. Hopefully Florida's not putting themselves in bad situations over and over again as far as passing situations, but it will come up at some point in the game. We would need to see that right side of that offensive line stand up, hold their ground, pass block for these quarterbacks on a consistent basis. Wide receiver. How deep does Florida go, Daryl, at receiver? I think you know what you have in Copeland. You know what you have in Shorter. Everybody else probably can go out there and prove it a little bit more, and also to see how much they're going to play. And I want to see how versatile the group is too. Who lines up inside, who lines up outside, who does both. I think is something to watch out for. And Whittemore, I think, has that potential. Jacob Copeland has that potential of lining up inside and outside there at receiver. We'll see where players like Jamarcus Weston where they line up the most. Rick Wells, of course. Just kind of going down the list a little bit there. There's the Copeland, Shorter, Henderson, Wells, Whittemore, all those guys, I think your top 4 or 5 receivers. Weston, throw those guys all in the mix. I just want to see how much they move around. Do we see the platooning that we saw last year? Do we see the first three go out there for a couple of drives and then a whole another set of 3 or 4 come out for another drive? How deep does Florida go? How versatile do those guys look out there too? Tight end. I want to see how Gamble and Zip do in this version of the offense. We saw glimpses of what they did last year, but I think the focus shifts a little bit. Do we see them on the field at the same time more? Do we see the shovel pass we're also dying to see in this version of an offense that we've seen Florida run plenty of times before with Dan Mullen as an offensive coordinator and the tight end shovel pass? Do we see more of it this year? Not so sure we see that thrown out there this game. We might just put more film out there for Florida. But are these guys on the field at the same time, Gamble and Zip? And what does it look like in this style of offense? Also, young guys, Elksness, Odom. I want to see those guys get plenty of playing time, see what they bring to the table, as we heard some nice things about those guys as young players. Can they go out there and improve in a game-like situation? Once again, it's not too big for them, and push Gamble and Zip for more playing time. Let's move to the other side of the ball. Defensive line. How does the rotation with Newkirk, Valentino, Dexter work out? That's assuming Newkirk plays. We know just the little bit of groin injury there, but we see a rotation there. Does Dexter get the start? I don't think it matters if he doesn't. Newkirk and Valentino might be the first 2 guys out there. And where they inside, outside, I think those guys are pretty versatile. Valentino probably more inside, but I think Newkirk, Dexter can play inside and outside. But Newkirk may be, not really outside, but of course you got a nose tackle there. I think Dexter can do both, nose tackle and defensive tackle. Valentino, I think more the nose. Newkirk, I think, can do both as well. And what does the shuffle, what does the rotation look like between those 2 guys? Does Cox get much time at all? Did Brenton Cox go out there and get a lot of playing time nursing that foot injury? I think he's ready to go, but do you need to force him out there? So with that, young guys at the edge and the buck rolls, with Chatfield transferring out, Princely will be out there more and more. We'll see if he can become more of that every down player that they were talking about in fall camp. Bogle, Summerall, Powell, all can see time at buck this game. I want to see those guys out there flying around, be in the backfield, lay some big hits. I want to see the young guys take over for defense in this game at some point, whether it be halfway through the second quarter. It could even be toward the beginning of we don't know Florida's injury situation perfectly out there. I think we know there could be some guys out there. Like I said, if you don't want to play Cox, I'm completely fine with that. That gives one of these guys an opportunity to go out there and make some plays early in the game with the starters. Of course, when you're out there, if you're a Princely, a Bogle, a Summerall, and you're playing out there with those defensive tackles that I just mentioned, it's only going to help you too. A lot of the time you're out there as a second team guy, you're out there with some second team defensive tackles, second team linebackers. But if you're out there with the starters, that's your opportunity as well to go out there and prove, hey, if I'm out here with the top end talent on defense, I can make a name for myself as well. If Cox is nursing or they just want to save him a little bit, go out there and make a name for yourself, Princely. Go out there and make a name for yourself, Bogle, Summerall, Powell, and earn some more playing time in these coaches' eyes. I want to see those guys out there flying around. Linebacker, let's continue this trend of seeing young players out there. Let the starters – I want to see the starters too. Miller, Diabate, Bernie, they'll get some early action. But after hearing about Tyron Hopper a lot in the spring, maybe even the top player of the spring, we haven't heard so much in fall camp from Tyron Hopper. But I think this is a chance we get to see him a good bit out there at the linebacker position. How is Derek Wingo progressing? He had to learn the linebacker position last year. He was more of a defensive end in high school. He had to learn to play linebacker in a COVID year where the reps were pretty small and trying to learn. We saw how hard it was for Mamu Diabate, a guy who had actually played some games. Derek Wingo was coming as a true freshman learning how to play linebacker. So what progress has he made? And I hope to see him there at linebacker a good bit too. Defensive back, predictable here as much as I was for running back, of course, in those explosive runs. You know where I'm going with this one for defensive back. Communication, lining up. I don't expect much from this FAU offense, even with some changes there for N'Kosi Perry leading an experienced offense. But they will try to use tempo in offense. And this is a great first test for this Florida defense to see where they are, particularly in the defensive backfield, in improving on the communication aspect of this defense. FAU wants to play fast anyway. You can best bet they saw Grantham's DBs struggle getting lined up and communicating last season. So we'll get to see just how much all the talk about improvement in communication come to fruition on game day. Overall for the defense, I'm going to encompass the whole defense here. Go out there and tackle. A common theme early in the season since Grantham's been here as defensive coordinator has been a lack of physicality, a lack of tackling early on in the season. It improved in 2018 and 2019 eventually. Not so much last year. Need to see the physicality. Need to see the tackling. Much better to start off a season this year. So that's what I want to see. Every position grouping this week versus FAU. All right, here we go. Let's do a little preview around the SEC, just a little bit as well this week. A lot of games there, of course, not many. I don't think there's any conference games when you go and look at it. So SEC has done that in the past, but I don't think there's any SEC versus SEC matchups this week. So, but there are some big games, and it gets started Thursday night. Bowling Green in Tennessee. Josh Heupel area begins there at Tennessee, naming Joe Milton starting quarterback. A lot of eyes will be on this matchup as that era kicks off on a Thursday night, of course, as well. So some other games, bigger games, of course, but SEC Network, 8 o'clock, Tennessee hosts Bowling Green. And we'll see if the Vols can avoid another Georgia State-like upset here there. So Louisiana Monroe, we'll move to Saturday. Louisiana Monroe goes to Kentucky. Rice goes to Arkansas. And then at 3:30, Alabama, Miami, in Atlanta, New Look Bama, going against a Hurricane team where De'Aaron King will be bouncing back from a knee injury there. So, we'll see a lot of Bryce Young there at quarterback for Alabama, replacing those receivers, replacing some guys in the defensive secondary, but a pretty experienced defense. I think De'Aaron King's going to be running for his life all day. Alabama will blow the doors off of Miami when it's all said and done. Here we go, 4 o'clock, Louisiana Tech, Mississippi State, Central Michigan, and Missouri. And then all the way at 7 o'clock, Akron and Auburn. 7 o'clock as well, Eastern Illinois, South Carolina. And then 7:30, big game of the week, college football playoff preview is what everybody wants to label this one. Georgia, Clemson, they're in Charlotte. Big game here, of course. JT Daniels, quarterback for Georgia. Can he live up to the hype now that they're putting on this Georgia offense? Beat up a little bit at receiver. We'll see how healthy Georgia is there at receiver. But talent all around for that Georgia team. We'll play some guys in the secondary on that side of the ball too. And we'll see if they can stand up to Clemson's defensive line there, led by Breesy up front there for Clemson. Of course, Trevor Lawrence is gone. So starting a new era there at quarterback for Clemson as well. But there we go. Georgia, Clemson, big game, playoff implications, maybe just a little bit for those two teams. They can afford a loss with the rest of the schedule, of course, is there, especially Clemson. They probably won't get tested much all throughout the year there in the ACC. Georgia loses this game, still has the strength of an SEC schedule to build their resume back up. So huge game, big game. In the end, doesn't really hurt them all, but Georgia could probably get a whole lot of kudos for going out there and winning a game like that. At the same time, unfortunately, the Gator game's at the same time, so you'll be flipping back and forth or having it on another monitor, another TV there at the same time. But 7:30 as well as Florida hosting FAU. 8 o'clock, Kent State, Texas A&M. Also, East Tennessee State and Vanderbilt. Then at 8:30 p.m., LSU travels to LA to take on UCLA. LSU practicing all week in Houston. They had to, evacuate due to the hurricane there in Louisiana this week. We'll see how that affects them. Max Johnson gets to start at quarterback. We know him very well coming into the swamp, beating Florida last year. And a lot of questions for that LSU team this year. Now a lot of issues they have to deal with in the hurricane and having to practice away from Baton Rouge when they go play UCLA this week in Atlanta. And then on Monday night in Atlanta, Louisville, Ole Miss. We get to see Lane Kiffin in prime time Monday night. Matt Corral, a lot of hype surrounding him as well. We got to see that team in the first game of the season last year. Their first game of the season will be in prime time versus Louisville Monday night. So that'd be a pretty good game to cap off the first week of college football season. We're all ready for it, and it will be capped off versus Ole Miss and Louisville. There we go. Week 1 preview in the books. A lot of fun here previewing FAU, previewing the SEC week. We're all ready for it. It is game week. if you guys know, if you've been around Gators Breakdown, we'll 3 episodes a week starting next week. We'll do a recap show on Sunday, and that'll be me on Sunday. Monday, Will Miles will join me for our normal episode on Mondays, and then another preview episode previewing USF next week. So lots coming down, lots more on Gators Breakdown Plus. I'll probably put another Twitter Spaces episode out there as well for a chat style episode. Plenty content during football season out there. Remember, you can go win that blue Gators alternate helmet by joining Gators Breakdown Plus by Friday, September 3rd. But we are all ready to go talking some football for the next few months here. September, October, November, hopefully the first week of December. Talking football here on Gators Breakdown. All right, that'll do it for this episode. I am your host, David Waters. You can find me on Twitter at GatorDave_SEC. Guys and girls out there, thanks for listening to this